We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 71, verses 1 to 45, the whole chapter. The Lord travels to Indraprastha. Verse 1. Shri Shivavacha ityurjitam akanyam Jyutiritam akanya devarshe utavo bhavit Sabhyanam umatam agyaya krishnasya chamahamati. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, having thus heard the statements of Devarshi Narada and understanding the opinions of both the assembly and Lord Krishna, the great-minded Uddhava began to speak. Mukamakarati vachalam gangam langayate girim yatikantamam vande shri gurum dimitarinam Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshumiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So what do you remember from yesterday's class? A day in the life of Krishna at Dwaraka. Yes.
Roosters are like alarm clock.
Pardon me?
Roosters.
The roosters. They crow early in the morning and wake him up. Yes.
I'm bearing 16,000
lives. And meditating on himself. Right. No, yeah, they wouldn't notice that he expanded into 16,000 and he went back into one. Yes, in one house they saw one Krishna.
They didn't know that
he was also in the other places.
Each of the queens thought that.
Yeah.
He was daily with her.
I had a thought about it too, that, the chapter before he was, Narada Muni was visiting all the palaces. They were all in different time zones, like America has 4 different time zones. But it's all the different times of the day. And then I was having a thought like, how does Daruka know which palace is in the right time zone to go to get him at this sabha? Or else maybe it was going on at whole different times. It's like, you start thinking like that, but you can't really figure it out. How it's possible and how it's going on. If all the 16,000 were even in different time zones, it's like, yeah.
I thought the rain arrived.
Yeah.
So it changed according to...
Yeah, now I feel sleepy. Okay, now let's have nighttime in this palace. Let's go to sleep. And I feel like having fun in the pool with my wife. So let's have it afternoon now. You can just who knows?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yes.
What shall I do?
Yes, he's consulting his ministers. What shall we do? What shall I do? Yes. He illuminates the soul's path. His fame illuminates the soul's path.
And the answer was how?
How, yeah.
Given in verse 43, does
Hearing, chanting, remembering, meditating. That's how he illumines our path. Yes? Yeah. They're wondering we're your devotees. How can this demon be flourishing and we're in his prison? Yeah, that was their asking Krishna, what's going on here? We're supposed to be your devotees, and you came to reestablish religion, protect the pious, destroy the wicked, and here the wicked are this wicked Jarasandha is giving us so much trouble.
Sometimes when people devotion life is maybe not going to suffer.
You're right, I know. Sometimes we think, now I will get peace. You'll get peace, but not the kind of peace you're thinking of. Yes. Yeah. If you want peace, you've come to the wrong movement. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, peace will be there, but the peace that the devotee has is that even in the midst of the hurricane, he can be peaceful. Whereas other people, they don't want the hurricane. They think, okay, I'll get peace if I get rid of the hurricane and the storm and everything. But the devotees, they can be peaceful in the middle of the storm, and that's real peace. It's not that you just you'll never have a peaceful situation in this material world. It's not possible. It's not possible. Maybe for 1 minute or 1 second, but after that, something will be there to disturb you. If there's nothing, it'll be your mind. Your mind is always ready to give you trouble. Parvati.
Jarasandha was compared to power.
Yes, we cannot escape. It's too powerful for us. He's much more powerful than we are. We are 20,000 and he's one, but he is controlling us. This is our personified karma. Please free us. Now we are your surrendered souls, and you said, if we surrender to you, then you'll free us from our karma, so we're waiting for that. Yes, Manamali.
And we are glorifying Krishna. You are unlimited. You were winning 17 times.
17 times you defeated Jarasandha.
So you can save us.
So you can save us, yes. Only the 18th time you ran away, but that's your human behavior. We understand. It's not you couldn't defeat him. Yes. 13,054 cows. With, silver hooves and gold-plated horns and silk and pearls, and every day from each palace, 13,054 cows. Yes. So now let's read this verse again, because there's 3 different parts of this verse. And Uddhava is going to understand all the 3 different people or groups here, and he'll be able to reconcile the opinions of everybody. So let's read this first verse again, and then I'll ask you what are the opinions of the different people. Having thus heard the statements of Devarshi Narada, and understanding the opinions of both the assembly and Lord Krishna, the great-minded Uddhava began to speak. So we have 3 parties here. We have Devarshi Narada. Now, what did Devarshi Narada want to do? Yes?
Did you want Krishna go to the
To
assembly of Yudhishthira?
He wanted to go to Hastinapur, to Yudhishthira, to do the Rajasuya sacrifice. Now, what did the assembly want to do? Stay. Didn't stay? Kill Jarasandha. Yeah, of course they want him to stay, but they wanted him to go and kill Jarasandha, according to this book, Krishna book. And what did Lord Krishna want to do? Both. Yes, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So Uddhava understood all of them, and he had a way in which everyone could be satisfied. Now that's very difficult in this world, that you have 3 different opinions, and how to make everybody happy. It's called win-win, I guess, in the modern psychology. So verse 2, Shri Uddhava said, O Lord, as the sage advised, you should help your cousin fulfill his plan for performing the Rajasuya sacrifice. And you should also protect the kings who are begging for your shelter. Whose opinion is that? The assembly. Okay? Purport. So now he's saying, okay, you should do both. Devarshi Narada wanted Lord Krishna to go to Indraprastha and help his cousin Yudhishthira perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. At the same time, the members of the royal assembly strongly desired he defeat Jarasandha and rescue the kings he was holding prisoner. The great-minded Uddhava could understand Lord Krishna's desire to do both things. Thus he intelligently advised how both these purposes could be simultaneously accomplished. So from Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada quotes Uddhava. My dear Lord, first of all, let me say, the great sage Narada Muni has requested you to go to Hastinapur to satisfy King Yudhishthira, your cousin, who is making arrangements to perform the great sacrifice known as Rajasuya. I think, therefore, that your lordship should immediately go there to help the king in this great venture. However, although to accept the invitation offered by the sage Narada as primary is quite appropriate, at the same time, my lord, it is your duty to give protection to the surrendered souls. Both purposes can be served if we understand the whole situation. So verse 3. So now he will give his advice. And why you have to go to Indraprastha and do the Rajasuya sacrifice first. Only one who has conquered all opponents in every direction can perform the Rajasuya sacrifice, O Almighty One. Thus, in my opinion, conquering Jarasandha will serve both purposes. So here again, he's saying both things. You should conquer Jarasandha, and you should do, if you conquer Jarasandha, then you can perform the Rajasuya, otherwise you can't do it. Purport. Shri Uddhava here explains that only one who has conquered all directions is entitled to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. Therefore, Lord Krishna should immediately accept the invitation to participate in the sacrifice. But then he should arrange to kill Jarasandha as a necessary prerequisite. In this way, the king's request for protection would be fulfilled automatically. If the Lord would thus adhere to a single policy, namely, seeing that the Rajasuya sacrifice was performed properly, all purposes would be fulfilled. And so, we have to see what is our priority. There's so many things we have to do. But what is the most important thing to do that would serve all purposes? I don't know if you're on Sachinandan Swami's mailing list, but he sent a note out about priorities. How we should, what was that question? He said we should ask ourselves that, am I doing what I really need to do at this moment? What did he say? Something like that. What is the most efficient or effective thing that I should be doing right now? So we should always be asking ourselves that question. Now here he's got the priority is the Rajasuya sacrifice. Now why is that more important? Because to do the Rajasuya sacrifice, then you also have to rescue the kings. So what was that question that he wrote? You tell me.
The one activity I'm presently not doing, but know I should be doing, an activity that will change my life for the better.
Okay. What is the one activity that I'm not doing right now that I know I should be doing that will change my life for the better? Of course, we're doing a very good activity here right now. Yes? What, you had something else? No, okay. We're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essential activity of Krishna consciousness. And all purposes will be fulfilled by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. According to Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, one of Lord Krishna's qualities is chatura, clever, which means he can perform various types of work at the same time. Thus the Lord could certainly have solved the dilemma of how to simultaneously satisfy King Yudhishthira's desire to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice and the imprisoned king's desire for freedom. But Krishna wanted to give his dear devotee Uddhava the credit for the solution, and thus he pretended to be perplexed. So here's another wonderful quality of Krishna, that he does everything, but he wants his devotee to be the instrument. Nimitta matram bhavasavyasachi. So he knows everything and he does everything, but he wants the devotee to be glorified. So Krishna is happy when his devotee is glorified and given the credit, and the devotee is happy when Krishna is glorified and given the credit. So he wants Uddhava to get the credit now. Now in this world, it's the opposite. We all want to get the credit for what we do. And if someone else steals the credit away from us, then we're very unhappy. But here, Krishna is not like that. He wants his devotees to get the credit. Verse 4, Uddhava says, by this decision, there will be great gain for us, and you will save the kings. Thus, Govinda, you will be glorified. So now, Uddhava wants Krishna to be glorified. He says, so if you go to the Rajasuya sacrifice, you'll be glorified, and if you save the kings, you'll also be glorified. But will Krishna actually be the one to save the kings? If you already read ahead, then you'll know the answer to that question. Who will actually kill Jarasandha? Bhima. Again, his devotee will be the instrument, and Bhima will get the credit for killing Jarasandha. He wants Uddhava to get the credit for telling how to do it, and then Bhima will get the credit for doing it. But Krishna will be there, and that will be mentioned by Uddhava now. The invincible King Jarasandha is as strong as 10,000 elephants. Indeed, other powerful warriors cannot defeat him. Only Bhima is equal to him in strength. Because we know last time Krishna ran away from the battle, so Krishna is not the one. It's going to be Bhima. Purport. Sridhar Swami explains that the Yadavas were extremely eager to kill Jarasandha, and thus to caution them, Sri Uddhava spoke this verse. Jarasandha's death could only come at the hand of Bhima. Yes, everybody has their predestined one who's going to kill them in the whole Mahabharata, and you'll see that. It's so funny reading the battle, because somebody will be able to kill the person. Karna was able to, or somebody was able to kill, but he said, no, Bhima's going to kill you, or this one's going to kill you. Or Duryodhana, no, this one is for this one. Oh, sorry, I can't kill you. No, okay, you go. You're meant to be killed by this. And they know, everybody knows who's supposed to kill who. And Drupada was going to be killed, who was it? Or Jonah was going to be killed by Drupada's son, Justadumna. And he knew that, and he still taught him the military art. That's the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. And so, everybody, it's like everybody knows what's going to happen. So it's quite interesting. So how did Uddhava know? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti adds, Uddhava had previously deduced this from the Jyotir, Raga, and other astrological scriptures he had learned from his teacher, Brihaspati. So he found out that this Jarasandha will be killed by Bhima. He will be defeated in a match of single chariots, not when he is with his 100 military divisions. Now, Jarasandha is so devoted to Brahminical culture that he never refuses requests from Brahmanas. So he's devoted because the Brahmanas helped him, they gave their blessings to defeat Krishna the 18th time. Purport, it might be argued that since only Bhima could equal Jarasandha in personal strength, Jarasandha would be more powerful when supported by his huge army. Therefore, Uddhava here recommends single combat. But how could Jarasandha be persuaded to give up the support of his powerful army? Here, Uddhava gives the clue. Jarasandha will never refuse a request from Brahmanas since he is devoted to Brahminical culture. Bhima should go to him disguised as a Brahmin and beg charity. Thus he will obtain single combat with Jarasandha, and in your presence Bhima will no doubt kill him. Purport. The idea is that Bhima should beg his charity, a one-to-one fight with Jarasandha. So what's the important clause in that verse 7 as to the victory? What is the... Yes, Abai.
They do it single-handedly because Jarasandha with his army would be too powerful for Bhima.
Okay. That's important. I was thinking of another one. Yeah?
In your presence.
In your presence, Krishna. That's the main thing. If Krishna is there, Bhima will be victorious. So Krishna Bhakti Prabhupada says that. In order to assure Bhima Sena's victory, I think your lordship should accompany him. If the fighting takes place in your presence, I'm sure Bhima Sena will emerge victorious. For your presence makes everything impossible possible. So we should always remember that if we have some impossible thing to do. If we have Krishna present with us, then it can be possible. And we can have Krishna present by chanting His holy name. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva act only as your instruments in cosmic creation and annihilation, which are ultimately done by you, the Supreme Lord, in your invisible aspect of time. Okay, so here are some more instruments of Lord Krishna, Brahma and Shiva. Many people think, no, Brahma is supreme, Shiva is supreme. But no, they're also instruments in the creation annihilation. So how does Krishna do it? In what aspect? Time. In your invisible aspect of time, you are actually doing everything. Purport. Uddhava here explains that in fact, Lord Krishna himself will cause the death of Jarasandha, and Bhima will merely be the instrument. And we will see, there will be a certain point in the fight, we'll hear in our next class today, second class, where they will be fighting and Bhima will say, I can't defeat him. There's no way, we're equal, I can't do, after 27 days of fighting. So there's nothing I can do. He will admit that I cannot defeat him. And then Krishna will explain how to do it. So purport. The Supreme Lord, through His invisible potency of time, creates and annihilates the entire cosmic situation, whereas great demigods such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are merely the instruments of the Lord's will. Therefore, Bhima will have no difficulty acting as the Lord's instrument to kill the powerful Jarasandha. In this way, by the Lord's arrangement, His devotee Bhima will be glorified. So, Sarata Darshini Vishwanath Chakravarti says something, he quotes Lord Krishna. So in between verse 7 and 8, Lord Krishna says, if I do not do anything, why should I be present? So verse 8 is the answer. Brahma and Shiva are your instruments in creation and destruction through the energy of invisible time, Just as time alone creates and destroys the universe, with Brahma acting as an instrument in creation and Shiva as an instrument in destruction, so you will kill Jarasandha by your presence, and Bhima will be the instrument. Just as you do this for the glorification of Brahma and Shiva, so you will act in this way for the fame of Bhima. So Brahma and Shiva are very famous for their service, but actually, here he's saying is you are doing this. Uddhava is telling you are doing the creation annihilation, and they're getting the credit for it. Verse 9, in their homes the godly wives of the imprisoned kings sing of your noble deeds, about how you will kill their husband's enemy and deliver them. The gopis also sing your glories, how you killed the enemy of the elephant king Gajendra, the enemy of Sita, daughter of Janaka, and the enemies of your own parents as well. So also do these sages who have obtained your shelter glorify you, as do we ourselves. Purport. Great sages and devotees had informed the grief-stricken wives of the imprisoned kings that Lord Krishna would arrange for the killing of Jarasandha and would thus save them from their crisis. These godly women would thus sing the glories of the Lord at home, and when their children would cry for their fathers, their mothers would tell them, "Child, do not cry. Shri Krishna will save your father." In fact, the Lord has saved many devotees in the past, as described here. So then, Sarthadarshini Vishwanath Chakravarti again explains this verse. It is just as the gopis console themselves by singing about the killing of your enemy, Shankachuta, and liberating them from his confinement. O friends, be calm. Do not give up your lives by crying endlessly. He is an ocean of mercy, who protected us from the devouring tiger called Shankachuta. Remembering us will protect us from the bite of the snake of time, bringing great calamity and separation from him. And just as these wives are to be protected by killing Jarasandha and uniting them with their husbands, after completing the Rajasi sacrifice and returning, you should secretly go to Braj and protect the gopis by giving them your company. Then we and others will sing your glories. So that's quite an interesting interpretation by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, telling Krishna you should go to Braj. Verse 10, O Krishna, the killing of Jarasandha, which is certainly back to Uddhava, a reaction of his past sins, will bring immense benefit. Indeed, it will make possible the sacrificial ceremony you desire. Purport. Sridhar Swami explains that the word Bhuryartha, immense benefit, signifies that with the death of Jarasandha it will become easy to kill the demon Shishupala and to realize other objectives. So remember, so many demons have to be killed before Krishna can go to Braj. So on the list were Shishupala, Jarasandha, they were on the list. So they will be also taken off the list, wiped off, crossed off, just by doing the Rajasuya sacrifice. Then these two demons will be finished. The great commentator Sridhar Swami further explains that the term Paka indicates that the kings will be saved as a result of their piety, and that the term Vipakena indicates Jarasandha will die as a result of his wickedness. So, Dharma will succeed, will be victorious. The kings were complaining, what is this? Dharma is this wicked person has got us prisoner. And here in the verse it says, Paka means the king, we will be saved because of our piety, and Vipakena means he will die. In either case, the plan Uddhava has proposed is most favorable for the execution of the great Rajasuya sacrifice, desired by both the Lord and his pure devotees, the Pandavas, headed by King Yudhishthira. So, sometimes devotees of Krishna have different desires. The Pandavas wanted him to come there, and the assembly, the Yadus wanted him to go and kill Jarasandha. So it seemed like their desires were conflicting, different desires, but actually they were the same. And Uddhava, who is a very intelligent devotee, he could see both sides. And so he gave a plan in which that all the devotees' desires would be fulfilled. Shukadeva Goswami said, O King, Devarshi Narada, the other elders, and Lord Krishna all welcomed Uddhava's proposal, which was entirely auspicious and infallible. Purport. Sridhar Swami explains the term Achyutam indicates Uddhava's proposal was fortified by logical reasoning. Furthermore, Shukadeva Goswami specifically indicates by the term Yadu Vridha that it was the senior members, not the junior ones, who welcomed the proposal. So not everyone was happy with that decision. Young princes such as Aniruddha did not like Uddhava's proposal since they were eager to fight Jarasanda's army immediately. So the youth wanted to fight, whereas the elders said, no, this is more, they went with the intelligent plan of Uddhava, but the youth, we also see here, sometimes our youth don't agree with the elders in the Krishna conscious movement. So here the elders did follow Uddhava's, the assembly accepted Uddhava's plan. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 24, describes, although Krishna is independent of everyone, out of his causeless mercy, he is dependent upon Garga Rishi for religious instruction. For learning the military art, he is dependent upon who? Who did Krishna learn the military art from? Satyaki. Satyaki was Krishna's military teacher. Garga Rishi was his for religious instruction, and for good counsel, he's dependent upon his friend Uddhava. So he's dependent on those three for learning for different things. So then I also have another excerpt from Nectar of Devotion, chapter 36. In the city of Dwarka, the following devotees are known as Krishna's close associates: Uddhava, Daruka, Satyaki, Shutadev, Satyajit, Nanda, Upananda, and Bhadra. So Daruka, his charioteer, was one of his close associates. Interesting. All of these personalities remain with the Lord as his secretaries, but still they are sometimes engaged in his personal service. So Daruka was not just his charioteer, he was also secretary. Among the Kuru dynasty, Bhishma, Maharaj Parikshit, and Vidura are also known as close associates of Lord Krishna. So did Maharaj Parikshit? Yes, he was there. I wonder if Krishna saw the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. Was he there? I don't remember the timing there. Krishna was around when Maharaj Parikshit was born. Yeah. Anyway, he's an associate. It is said all the associates of Lord Krishna have lustrous bodily features, and their eyes are just like lotus flowers. They have sufficient power to defeat the strength of the demigods, and the specific feature of their persons is they are always decorated with valuable ornaments. When Krishna was in the capital Indraprastha, someone addressed him thus: "My dear Lord, your personal associates headed by Uddhava are always awaiting your order by standing at the entrance gate of Dwarka. They are mostly looking on with tears in their eyes, and in the enthusiasm of their service they are not afraid even of the devastating fire generated by Lord Shiva. They are souls simply surrendered unto your lotus feet." Out of the many close associates of Lord Krishna, Uddhava is considered the best. The following is a description of him. His body is blackish, like the color of Jamuna River, similarly as cool. He's always decorated with flower garlands first used by Lord Krishna, and he's dressed with yellow silk clothing. His two arms are just like the bolts of a door. His eyes are like lotus flowers, and he is the most important devotee among all the associates. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto Uddhava's lotus feet. Uddhava ki jai. Uddhava has described the transcendental qualities of Shri Krishna as follows. Lord Shri Krishna, who is our master and worshipful deity, controller of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, controller of the whole universe, as well accepts the controlling orders of Ugrasena, his grandfather. So that is from Canto 3. He says, Uddhava was saying, I'm bewildered when I see how Krishna is standing before Ugrasena in a very humble mood, and says, I beg to tell you about this. He is the proprietor of millions of universes, but still he begged a little land from the ocean. So what's that little land he begged? Dwarka. And although he's just like an ocean of wisdom, he sometimes consults me. He is so great and magnanimous, yet he is engaged in his different activities just like an ordinary person. So Uddhava is bewildered because he has a mixed relationship with Krishna. Friendship mixed with servitude. Verse 12, the Almighty Personality of Godhead, son of Devaki, begged his superiors for permission to leave. There again, he's begging permission. And do we ever do that? I mean, in the Western culture, forget it. We never ask our parents. We don't even tell them where we're going or when we're going. We just go. Here, he's begging permission to leave. Then he ordered his servants, headed by Daruka and Jaita, to prepare for departure. Purport. Superiors mentioned here are personalities such as Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. O slayer of enemies, after he had arranged for the departure of his wives, children, and baggage, and taken leave of Lord Sankarshan and King Ugrasena, Lord Krishna mounted his chariot, which had been brought by his driver. It flew a flag marked with the emblem of Garuda. Purport. Having accepted Uddhava's proposal, Lord Krishna first proceeded with his wife's family and entourage to the royal city of Indraprastha, the capital of the Pandavas. The rest of this chapter describes Lord Krishna's journey to that city and how he was received there by his loving devotees. In Indraprastha, Lord Krishna explained to the Pandavas his plan to first kill Jarasandha and then perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. And with their full agreement, he proceeded with Bhimasena to settle accounts with the wicked king. So this paragraph is a summary of this in the next chapter in one paragraph or practically one sentence, 2 sentences, whole summary of chapter 71 and chapter 72, what we are going to hear today. There we just heard it, so we can go home. But no, we will stay and get the details. Purport. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Lord Krishna's wives had also been invited to the Rajasuya sacrifice and were eager to go. The description of the colorful royal procession begins with the following verse. Nectar Devotion, Chapter 38. When Lord Krishna went to the capital of King Yudhisthira, Uddhava was so afflicted by the fire of separation from Krishna, the perspiration from his inflamed body and tears from his eyes poured from him. In this way he became completely stunned. So while Krishna was leaving, there were others who were staying back. Uddhava, who else we heard was staying back? Sankarshan, Balaram. And who else? Last verse. Vasudeva, yeah. No, not Satyaki was going. Ugrasena. Ugrasena stayed back. His grandfather, his parents, and Lord Balaram, they all stayed back. Satyaki went with him. As the vibrations resounding from Mridangas, berries, kettle drums, conch shells, and gomukhas filled the sky in all directions, Lord Krishna set out on his journey. What a way to go. So all these wonderful vibrations. He was accompanied by the chief officers of his corps of chariots, elephants, infantry, and cavalry, and surrounded on all sides by his fierce personal guard. So not only he took his wives, he took his whole army with him when he went to Indraprastha. Lord Achyuta's faithful wives, along with their children, and the children, they also went too, followed the Lord on golden palanquins carried by powerful men. And those men had to travel all the way from Dwaraka to Delhi and carry the palanquin. Imagine carrying the palanquin for such a long way.
Even by train, so long travel.
From Dwaraka to Delhi by palanquin, yes? Palanquin and Gaudi Tai. Bullock cart could not go. And Tulsi probably also. Gaudi Tai up from Rishikesh to Badrinath. Yeah, so just imagine. Try doing it from Dwaraka to Delhi.
It's like 400 kilometers.
350 kilometers.
What? Which one? Rishikesh to Badrinath. And how much is it from Dwaraka to Delhi?
It's 2 days by train.
Much more. Maybe twice.
2,000 kilometers by palanquin. They don't make those kind of palanquin carriers nowadays.
But for this message, sometimes they're using horse-driven.
Horse is one thing. A palanquin is another. Horses can go. Horses can Horses can go long distance. Well, they were going slowly. Infantry was there. That means, for cavalry, one of those is walking, I think. Cavalry, I can't remember. Cavalry, infantry, one of them is walking. One of them are foot soldiers. I don't remember which. Which one? Infantry? Walking. They are foot soldiers, so they were walking too. The infantry was walking. So, of course. And they make camp. They make a camp and cook and... Let's see who else is going with them. Okay, Lord Achyuta's faithful. We got the queens were adorned with fine clothing, ornaments, fragrant oils, and flower garlands, and surrounded on all sides by soldiers carrying swords and shields in their hands. So because the palanquins, they were walking, so the soldiers had to surround them and protect them. So 16,108 queens means so many soldiers around each one. It means you need a lot of soldiers. Times whatever, how many soldiers were around them. Purport.
Like children.
Oh, children, yeah. So it's not just 16,108 palanquins. There's the children too. Purport. According to Shiraswami, the word Vaji indicates some of Lord Krishna's queens were transported by horse-drawn conveyances. Oh, there you go. So we don't need that many palanquins. Some were going by horse carriage. On all sides proceeded finely adorned women attendants of the royal household, as well as courtesans. They rode on palanquins and camels, bulls and buffalo, donkeys, mules, bullock carts, and elephants. So you've got the servants, they're also going, and they're riding too. The women servants, maidservants. Their conveyances were fully loaded with grass tents, blankets, clothes, and other items for the trip. So they went with the luggage cart. We have the luggage in the train, the luggage, and people ride in the luggage compartment of the train also.
What time of year was this?
I don't know when this was. Anyway, they were all going, and Vishwanath Chakravarti explains the household attendants mentioned here include washer women and other helpers, probably the dishwashers, the washer women, and who knows what else. So they brought all their servants with them too, to Indraprastha. The Lord's army boasted royal umbrellas, chamra, fans, and huge flagpoles with waving banners. That must have been a really long procession. During the day, the sun's rays reflected brightly from the soldiers' fine weapons, jewelry, helmets, and armor. Thus, Lord Krishna's army, noisy with shouts and clatter, appeared like an ocean, stirring with agitated waves and timingala fish. And so it was like an ocean traveling from Dwarka to Delhi. Huge ocean. And imagine if you were seeing this going by. Honored by Shri Krishna, chief of the Yadus, Narada Muni bowed down to the Lord. All of Narada's senses were satisfied by his meeting with Lord Krishna. Thus, having heard the decision of the Lord and having been worshipped by him, Narada placed him firmly within his heart and departed through the sky. And so Narada flew this time. Usually he flies. Krishna, but before starting the procession, Lord Krishna satisfied the great sage Narada by offering him different kinds of articles of worship. Naradaji wanted to fall at the lotus feet of Krishna, but because the Lord was playing the part of a human being, he simply offered his respects within his mind, and fixing the transcendental form of the Lord within his heart, he left the assembly house by the airways. Yes, fly with Narada. Usually the sage Narada does not walk on the surface of the globe, but travels in outer space. Yes, the scientists should study how he does that. Verse 19. With pleasing words the Lord addressed the messenger sent by the kings. My dear messenger, I wish all good fortune to you. I shall arrange for the killing of King Magadha. Do not fear. So arrange means he's not exactly going to do it. He will arrange it. Purport. The statement Mabhaishta, do not fear, is in the plural, being intended for both the messenger and the kings. Similarly, the expression Bhadram Va, blessings unto you, is also in the plural, expressing a similar intent. Bhadram Te and Mabhaishtam. Don't fear, all blessings. Thus addressed, the messenger departed and accurately relayed the Lord's message to the kings. Eager for freedom, they then waited expectantly for their meeting with Lord Krishna. Purport. The great Vaishnava scholar Sri Jiva Goswami comments here that by force of circumstances, the king began focusing their attention on Lord Krishna alone. So sometimes we're forced to think of Krishna. Anybody have that experience where you're forced to think of Krishna? When are you forced to think of Krishna? When you're in danger, difficulty, suffering. Yes?
When Krishna showers his blessings upon you.
When Krishna showers his blessings upon you. That must be a nice experience. Yes? Helpless condition.
Exam time.
What? Exam time. Are you still in school?
Yeah, I was completed my...
Oh, you completed your master's? Wow. Oh, glories. Okay, exam time. You need to think of Krishna. Yeah, there was two students in Bombay. And one to take the final exam, I think for 10th standard or something. And one of them was, doing a lot of service and chanting, but then he decided, okay, I better stop it and do my exam, study for my exam now. And another one, he said, oh, it's time for my exam, I better do more chanting now. So the one who stopped and studied, he failed, and the other one who chanted, he got very high marks. So that goes to show you what you need to do, the priorities. Okay. As he traveled through the provinces of Anarta, where's Anarta? Dwarka. Okay, that's the first one. Sauvira. So Anarta is like Gujarat. Sauvira is Saurashtra. Is that also Gujarat? Like Marudesh. That's also Rajasthan Desert. Marudesh, Rajasthan, and Vinashana. That's a funny name. I never heard that before. Vinashana. Lord Hari crossed rivers and passed mountains, cities, villages, cow pastures, and quarries. After crossing the rivers Jishadavati and Saraswati, he passed through Panchala. Where's Panchala? Panchala. And Matsya. And Matsya is Madhya Pradesh or? West. It's all west. Finally came to Indraprastha. King Yudhisthira was delighted to hear that the Lord, whom human beings rarely see, has now arrived. Accompanied by his priests and dear associates, the king came out to meet Lord Krishna. As songs and musical instruments resounded along with the loud vibration of Vedic hymns, the king went forth with great reverence to meet Lord Rishikesha, just as the senses go forth to meet the consciousness of life. The senses go forth to meet the consciousness of life. That must be something that happens in the womb. I don't know. Or when you're born at birth.
Coming out of the swoon.
Coming out of the swoon. Okay, after you faint, then your senses go forth to meet the consciousness of life. Okay. Purport. Here, Lord Krishna is here described as Rishikesh, Lord of the senses. And King Yudhisthira's rushing to the Lord is compared to these senses eagerly joining the consciousness of life. Without consciousness, these senses are useless. Indeed, the senses function through consciousness. Similarly, when the individual souls are bereft of Krishna consciousness, love of God, they enter into a useless and illusory struggle called material existence. Pure devotees like King Yudhisthira are never bereft of the Lord's association, for they keep him always within their heart, and yet they feel special ecstasy when they see the Lord after long separation, as described here. So in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 38, Yudhisthira is quoted. King Yudhisthira once said, Krishna, the chariot driver of Arjuna, is the only relative of mine within the three worlds. He's my only relative. I mean, he had 4 brothers, he had his mother, he had children, wives. He's my only relative. Therefore, my mind is becoming maddened day and night with separation from his lotus feet, and I do not know how to situate myself or where I shall go to attain any steadiness of mind. This is an example of lack of sleep. So, that is one of the Vyabhichari, I guess, one of the bhavas, or the transitory symptoms. Verse 25, the heart of King Yudhisthira melted with affection when he saw his dearmost friend, Lord Krishna, after such a long separation, and he embraced the Lord again and again. So it was like when Krishna is away, it's like they're in a kind of state of unconsciousness. They feel like, without Krishna, and it's very hard to live. Now Krishna is there, and now they're becoming conscious. The eternal form of Lord Krishna is the everlasting residence of the goddess of fortune. As soon as King Yudhisthira embraced him, the king became free of all the contamination of material existence. He immediately felt transcendental bliss, immersed in an ocean of happiness. There were tears in his eyes, and his body shook due to ecstasy. He completely forgot he was living in this material world. The above translation is taken from Prabhupada's Krishna book. Then Bhima, his eyes brimming with tears, laughed with joy as he embraced his maternal cousin Krishna. Arjuna and the twins, Nakula and Sahadev, also joyfully embraced their dearmost friend, the infallible Lord, and they cried profusely. So the Pandavas were extremely ecstatic. This verse is quoted in Nectar of Devotion, verse 27. It is stated when Lord Krishna arrived in the city of Indraprastha, Bhima was so overwhelmed with joy, with tears in his eyes and a smiling face, he immediately embraced his maternal cousin. Following him were his young brothers, Nakula and Sahadev, along with Arjuna, and they all became so overwhelmed at seeing Krishna that with full satisfaction they embraced the Lord, who is known as Achyuta. There is a similar statement about the cowherd boys of Vrindavan. When Krishna was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all the cowherd boys came to see him, wearing jeweled earrings in their ears. Becoming so greatly overjoyed, they extended their arms and embraced Krishna as their old friend. These are instances of full satisfaction in friendship with Krishna. Verse 28, after Arjuna had embraced him once more, and Nakula and Sahadev had offered him their obeisances, Lord Krishna bowed down to the Brahmanas and elders present, thus properly honoring the respectable members of the Kuru, Shinjaya, and Kaikaya clans. Purport. Shri Sridhar Swami mentioned, since Arjuna was considered Lord Krishna's social equal, when Arjuna tried to bow down to him, Lord Krishna held Arjuna by his arms so he could only embrace him. The twins, however, being junior cousins, bowed down and grasped Lord Krishna's feet. So much etiquette is going on here between Krishna and even the Pandavas were following etiquette, and all the other residents of Indraprastha. So Nectar of Devotion, chapter 43. Now we will hear the analysis of how everyone was, what their relationship, their rasa, their eternal rasa with Krishna is. Sri Rupa Goswami states that according to some learned scholars, 3 kinds of transcendental mellow, servitude, fraternity, and parental affection, are sometimes mixed. So we will hear about some of these, especially the Pandavas, who have some mixed rasas or feelings towards Krishna. For example, fraternal feeling of Balaram are mixed with servitude and parental affection. So Balaram has 3 different types of rasas. Sometimes he's friendship. His friendship is mixed with sometimes a parental. He's older brother. He wants to protect, and servitude. He also wants to serve Krishna. He has also this servitor mood. Similarly, King Yudhisthira's attraction for Krishna is also mixed with parental affection and servitude. So they're friends, but they're mixed. It's not like the devotees and the cowherd boys. They're completely only Sakya Ras. So here in Dwaraka, in Indraprastha, we have Pandavas have mixed relationships. Arjuna is Sakya. He's pure Sakya. But Yudhisthira is mixed. Similarly, the transcendental mellow of Ugrasena, Krishna's grandfather, is mixed with servitude and parental affection. The affection of all the elderly gopis in Vrindavan is a mixture of parental love, servitude, and fraternity. So the elderly gopis have 3 also. Yes? Even the sakas are mixed. Some of them are like servants.
There are sakas that are younger to Krishna.
The younger ones are like servants.
They are
Friends. Friends, servants, and then protectors.
And then people are older,
They are like protection. the Madhurya. Priya Nrm Sakas, who have the Madhurya.
They all have some mixture.
They all have some mixture, okay? There are some who are just Sakas, but then there are others who are mixed. The elderly gopis, so that's interesting. I thought it was only Vatsalya, but here we also have servitude and fraternity with the elderly gopis. Affection of the sons of Madhi, Nakul and Sahadev, as well as the affection of the sage Narada, is a mixture of friendship and servitude. Friendship and servitude. So friendship is first, servitude is second. The affection of Lord Shiva, Garuda, and Uddhava is a mixture of servitude and fraternity. So servitude is first and friendship is second. With Lord Shiva, Garuda, and Uddhava. Now we'll go to chapter 47. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 43. 43, Fraternal Devotion. The chapter on friendship, on Sakya Ras. So we can hear the analysis of all the different rasas that the devotees have for Krishna. There's an instance, this is chapter 47, when Sahadev, the younger brother of Nakula, became greatly gladdened at seeing the effulgent glowing of Krishna's footprints. Sahadev. Chapter 47 of Nectar of Devotion. He saw Krishna's footprints. He began to cry out, "Mother Madri, where are you now? Father Pandu, where are you now? I'm very sorry you're not here to see these footprints of Krishna." This is an example of devotional service in compassion. Now we'll hear about another quality which Krishna has, and also in relationship with the Pandavas. Krishna has this quality of Dhira Prashanta. Dhira Prashanta. A person who is very peaceful, forbearing, considerate, and obliging is called Dhira Prashanta. This Dhira Prashanta trait of Krishna was exhibited in his dealings with the Pandavas. On account of the Pandavas' faithful devotion to the Lord, he agreed to become the charioteer, their advisor, their friend, their messenger, and sometimes their bodyguard. So when he was doing all these different services for the Pandavas, he was in his Dhira Prashanta mood. Dhira. Such is an example of the result of devotional service toward Vishnu. When Krishna was speaking to Maharaj Yudhisthira about religious principles, he demonstrated himself to be a great learned scholar. But because he accepted the position of younger cousin to Yudhisthira, he was speaking in a very gentle tone, which enhanced his beautiful bodily features. So to Yudhisthira, he was not speaking like a guru. He was speaking like a younger person, very respectful, very gentle. And I'm telling you these things, but please accept this from me, what I'm telling you.
What Vivekananda was in what, in 47?
47. This is in chapter 23. Now this is Dhira Prashanta is from chapter 23 of Nectar of Devotion. The mode of his speech proved he was very, very expert in giving moral instruction. Sometimes Maharaj Yudhisthira is also accepted by learned scholars as Dhira Prashanta. So he also had that quality, Yudhisthira himself. Very obliging, very forbearing. Even Draupadi was insulted, still he was tolerating. And in the forest he was tolerating. So many things he was tolerating. And Bhima was ready to kill everyone. But not Yudhisthira was just very tolerant, forbearing, obliging. When they were in the forest, and Duryodhana came to the forest with all his opulence, his wives, his armies. He wanted to show off to the Pandavas how opulent he was while they were suffering. But on the way, they had a fight with the Gandharvas, and they were all captured by the Gandharvas. And then a messenger came from the Kurus to the Pandavas in the forest, and they said, "Oh, you must come and help. All Duryodhana and all their wives, they're all captured by the Gandharvas." Bhima said, "Ha, great, this is wonderful news. This is just, we don't have to worry anymore. It's all been taken care of by the Gandharvas." And Yudhisthira said, "No. You and Arjuna, you go and free the they are the ladies, they have our ladies. This is our family. You should go and you should," and Bhima, grumbling, he had to go, because Yudhisthira is so forbearing and so tolerant. And he said, "Yes, you go and save them. They are our family members." And so Bhima and Arjuna had to rescue Duryodhana and everyone from the Gandharvas. And so that was the quality of Yudhisthira. And Krishna. Now, we are talking about the servants of Krishna. Wonder why. Maybe we don't need... Okay, because they're inhabitants of Dwaraka. Nectar of Devotion, chapter 36. Those who are constantly engaged in personal service of the Lord are called anugas, or followers. Examples of such followers are Suchandra, Mandana, Stamba, and Sutamba. They're inhabitants of Dwaraka. They're dressed and ornamented like the other associates. The specific services entrusted to the anugas are varied. Mandana always bears the umbrella over the head of Lord Krishna. Suchandra is engaged in fanning with the white chamara bunch of hair, and Sutamba is engaged in supplying betel nuts. All of them are great devotees and always busy in transcendental loving service of the Lord. Okay, back to Indraprastha now. Sutas, Magadas, Gandharvas, Vandis, jesters, and Brahmanas all glorified the lotus-eyed Lord, some reciting prayers, some dancing and singing, as mridangas, kanchals, kettledrum, venas, panavas, and gomukhas resounded. Thus surrounded by his well-wishing relatives and praised on all sides, Lord Krishna, the crest jewel of the justly renowned, entered the decorated city. Purport. Sri Prabhupada writes, while Lord Krishna was entering the city, all the people were talking among themselves about the glories of the Lord, praising his transcendental name, quality, form, etc. The roads of Indraprastha were sprinkled with water perfumed by the liquid from elephants' foreheads. Perfume, liquid from the elephants' foreheads. Interesting, yeah. Elephants' foreheads. And colorful flags, golden gateways, and full water pots enhanced the city's splendor. Men and young girls were beautifully arrayed in fine new garments, adorned with flower garlands and ornaments, and anointed with aromatic sandalwood paste. Every home displayed glowing lamps and respectful offerings, and from the holes of the lattice windows drifted incense, further beautifying the city. Banners waved, and the roofs were decorated with golden domes and broad silver bases. Thus Lord Krishna saw the royal city of the king of the Kurus. Purport. Srila Prabhupada adds, Lord Krishna thus entered the city of the Pandavas, enjoyed the beautiful atmosphere, and slowly proceeded ahead. And Prabhupada in Krishna book further comments, the houses were all illuminated by hundreds and thousands of lamps placed in different corners of the cornices, walls, columns, bases, and architraves. From far away, the rays of the lamps appeared to be celebrating the festival of Diwali. So, Diwali, that means it sounds like he came at night to Indraprastha, and everyone, they made just like Diwali here, where you put candles and lights and deeps everywhere, all over the place. So just like for Lord Ram, he was welcomed back to Ayodhya. I guess it was nighttime there too, when he came back. And so here it's nighttime, looks like nighttime, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the rays of the lamps. If it was day, you couldn't see the rays, but from far away. So from far away, if you see the rays, that means it's night and you're seeing everything is lit up with all these lamps. 33. When the young women of the city heard that Lord Krishna, a reservoir of pleasure for human eyes, had arrived, they hurriedly went unto the royal road to see him. They abandoned their household duties and even left their husbands in bed, and in their eagerness the knots of their hair and garments came loose. So Krishna has that effect on ladies everywhere. Wherever he goes, we went to Mathura, the ladies, one of them was in her marriage ceremony, we were reading last year. She was circumambulating the fire, and she just left the fire and went to sit in the middle of her, going around the fire. I was just thinking about that. I wonder if she was tied to her husband's, how did she do that? Anyway, maybe he had to go too. Anyway, he has that effect on the women. And they hear he's Krishna, it's Krishna. Zoop, out they go. So this verse is quoted in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 30. When Krishna first came from his kingdom, Dwaraka, to Indraprastha, the young females of the city became so eager to see him that even at night, so it was nighttime, when they were lying down with their husbands, they could not restrain their eagerness. Yes, here it's mentioned it was nighttime when he arrived. Even though they were not properly dressed, and although their hair was loose, and you're not supposed to go out with loose hair, and there were many household duties to perform, they still gave up everything and immediately went into the street to see Krishna. This is an instance of eagerness and ecstatic love. So this verse is quoted, and it's said that it's at night, so it is at night. 34. The royal road being quite crowded, With elephants, horses, chariots, and foot soldiers, the women climbed to the top of their houses, where they caught sight of Lord Krishna and his queens. The city ladies scattered flowers upon the Lord, embraced him in their minds, and expressed their heartfelt welcome with broadly smiling glances. Purport. Shri Sridhar Swami comments, the ladies communicated through their affectionate glances their eager inquiries as to the comfort of Lord Krishna's trip, and so on. In other words, in their ecstasy, they intensely desired to serve the Lord. 35. Observing Lord Mukunda's wives passing on the road like stars accompanying the moon, the women exclaimed, "What have these ladies done so that the best of men bestows upon their eyes the joy of his generous smiles and playful sidelong glances?" So they wished it was them. They were really desiring to be a wife of Krishna. 36. In various places, citizens of the city came forward holding auspicious offerings for Lord Krishna, and sinless leaders of occupational guilds came forward to worship the Lord. So the leaders of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, Shudras. No, that is Vaishyas and Shudras. Purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, while Lord Krishna was thus passing on the road, at intervals some of the opulent citizens, who are all rich, respectable, and freed from sinful activities, presented auspicious articles to the Lord, just to offer him a reception to the city. Thus they worshipped him as humble servitors. With wide open eyes, the members of the royal household came forward in a flurry to lovingly greet Lord Mukunda, and thus the Lord entered the royal palace. When Queen Pritha saw her nephew Krishna, the master of the three worlds, her heart became filled with love. Rising from her couch with her daughter-in-law, she embraced the Lord. Purport. Queen Kunti's daughter-in-law is the famous Draupadi. King Yudhishthira respectfully brought Lord Govinda, the supreme god of gods, to his personal quarters. The king was so overcome with joy, he could not remember all the rituals of worship. Sometimes when Prabhupada would come, we would also get like that, and we would forget. Sometimes they would even forget to pick him up at the airport. Sometimes, or then he would just have to take a taxi, or somebody would be there and bring him to the temple. And sometimes they would forget to open the door, or, it was just like, they were just so. I remember one time Prabhupada, one devotee who was tearing up the grass from the lawn and jumping, and he was just like going crazy. Anyway, it was kind of like that. In the West. In India, it was more subdued. It was not so. Well, we did go to the airport in India too, Bombay. They weren't allowing us to go inside. In the West, we were in the airport. I remember, where was it? In Atlanta. They carried this huge Vyasasan down the airport hall up to the arrivals. Huge one. Took maybe 5-6 men to carry it. Big Vyasasan, blue. Anyway. So, yes. King Yudhishthira brought him to his quarters. Purport. Sri Prabhupada writes, as he brought Krishna within the palace, King Yudhishthira became so confused in his jubilation, he practically forgot what he was to do at that time in order to receive Krishna and worship him properly. This verse is quoted, Nectar of Devotion, chapter 30. There is an account of King Yudhishthira's bewilderment after his bringing Krishna into his home with the greatest respect. King Yudhishthira was very bewildered because of his transcendental pleasure at having Krishna present in his house. In fact, while receiving Krishna, King Yudhishthira forgot himself. This is an instance of inertia resulting from the ecstasy of seeing Krishna. Means Krishna came and he was just standing there, looking at Krishna and not doing anything, like you're supposed to do so many things. So inertia means he just was like, he's stunned and he didn't know what to do. He was just like looking at Krishna. And but there were so many things, like here's your room. I showed him to his quarters. That much he did. But you're supposed to offer different, maybe arti and food and so many. But he was just like stunned. He forgot what to do. He just forgot how he's supposed to greet him and give him things. Lord Krishna bowed down to his aunt and the wives of his elders, O king, and then Draupadi and the Lord's sister bowed down to him. Purport. Sri Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna delightfully offered his respectful obeisances to Kunti and other elderly ladies of the palace. His younger sister Subhadra is also standing there with Draupadi, and both offered their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, why was Subhadra standing with Draupadi there? She married Arjuna, yes. So, although we're going to hear about it later, it happened actually before. This is not chronological order, this 10th canto, this part. So she had already married Arjuna, and she was standing with Draupadi. Encouraged by her mother-in-law, Draupadi worshipped all of Lord Krishna's wives, including Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, descendant of Shibi, the chaste Nagnajiti, and the other queens of the Lord who were present. Draupadi honored them all with such gifts as clothing, flower garlands, and jewelry. So Draupadi had a lot of offerings to do there also, but she was capable. 5 husbands, no problem. If you can have 5 husbands, you can worship 16,000 ladies, queens. King Yudhisthira arranged for Krishna's rest and saw to it that all who came along with him, namely his queens, soldiers, ministers, and secretaries, were comfortably situated. He arranged they would experience a new feature of reception every day while staying as guests of the Pandavas. So new feature means different feasts, different entertainment, different dramas, different things to do. Desiring to please King Yudhisthira, the Lord resided at Indraprastha for several months. During his stay, he and Arjuna satisfied the fire god by offering him the Khandava forest, and they saved Maya Danava, who then built King Yudhisthira a celestial assembly hall. The Lord also took the opportunity to go riding in his chariot in the company of Arjuna, surrounded by a retinue of soldiers. So, what did he do for fun in Indraprastha? He went riding in his chariot with Arjuna, just like sometimes in the West people like to go out for a drive. So Krishna went out for a drive with Arjuna in his chariot. Just go out for a drive. That's where we get that idea from, because Krishna used to do it too. He used to go out for a drive. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna, it was during this time that Lord Shri Krishna, with the help of Arjuna for the satisfaction of the fire god, Agni, allowed Agni to devour the Khandava forest. During the forest fire, Krishna saved the demon Mayasura, who was hiding in the forest. Upon being saved, Mayasura felt obliged to the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, and he constructed a wonderful assembly house within the city of Hastinapur. In this way, Lord Krishna, in order to please King Yudhisthira, remained in the city of Hastinapur for several months. During his stay, he enjoyed strolling here and there. He used to drive in chariots along with Arjuna, and many warriors and soldiers used to follow them. Yes, when Prabhupada would go somewhere, many devotees would follow him on his morning walks. He would go strolling, Prabhupada would go strolling out on the ocean side or in the gardens of the cities, and he would go for walks. Okay, then I would just like to say a little bit more about Mayadanava, because we did hear about him, I think, last year. I don't know, not this year, I don't think. It was last year. So again, I'll review a little bit. That Prabhupada, he talks about Mayadanava in the first canto, 15th chapter, verse 8. Arjuna says, because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven, Indradev, along with his demigod associates, thus enabled the fire god to devastate the Khandava forest. So there was a fight, because it was Indra was protecting the Khandava forest because he had friends there. And one of them was, I believe, Takshika. Takshika was in there being protected, and Mayadanava was in there, and many other living entities. Only by his grace was the demon named Maya saved from the blazing Khandava forest. So actually, who saved Mayadanava? Was it Krishna? It was Arjuna. Arjuna is giving him, Krishna, the credit. But actually Arjuna saved Maya, because Krishna was going to go after him with his Sudarshan Chakra. Thus we could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajasuya Yagya and paid you tributes. So Prabhupada explains how Arjuna saved the demon's life. And the demons, Prabhupada talks about the demons possess wonderful and supernatural powers to create material wonders, but they're always disturbing elements of the society. The modern demons are, who? The scientists, the harmful material scientists who create some material wonders for the disturbance of society. For example, the creation of nuclear weapons has caused some panic in human society. So now we're getting a lot of predictions as to when the world is going to end. Perhaps next year, perhaps 2012. There will be nuclear disaster. So they are predicting. Causing panic in human society. Maya was also a materialist like that. And he knew the art of creating such wonderful things. Yet Lord Krishna wanted to kill him. When he was chased, both by the fire and by the wheel of Lord Krishna, he took shelter of such a devotee as Arjuna, who saved him from the wrath of the fire of Lord Krishna. So Arjuna said it's by Krishna's grace he was saved. But actually it was Arjuna who saved him. Krishna wanted to kill him. So a very smart demon. He knew, if I go to the devotee, then I'll be saved. So we should also be smart like Mayadanava and take shelter of the lotus feet of the devotee. Devotees are therefore more merciful than the Lord. And in devotional service, Prabhupada says, the mercy of a devotee is more valuable than the mercy of the Lord. So we have to remember that. Both the fire and the Lord ceased from chasing the demon as soon as both of them saw the demon was given shelter by such a devotee as Arjuna. This demon, feeling obliged to Arjuna, wanted to do him some service to show his gratefulness, but Arjuna declined to accept anything from him in exchange. So he said, okay, no, it's okay, you do something for Krishna. Lord Krishna, however, being pleased with Maya for his having taken shelter of a devotee, so he said, okay, ask Krishna what to do. So Krishna said, you go and do some service for King Yudhisthira. So Prabhupada said this is the process. The process is by the grace of the devotee, the mercy of the Lord is obtained. And by the mercy of the Lord, a chance to serve the Lord's devotee is obtained. Okay? So that's what happened. The example is Mayadanava. He got the mercy of Arjuna. Arjuna said, go serve Krishna. Krishna said, go serve Yudhisthira. So he built that beautiful assembly house. The club of Bhimasena was also a gift of Mayadanava. So he gave Bhima his club, and he gave Yudhisthira his assembly house. Sarta Darshini Vishwanath Chakravarti explains why are they talking about this again. Krishna resided there and liberated Mayadanava from the fire so he could build the assembly house. Again, he's giving Krishna the credit now. Those previous events related in the 58th chapter. 58th, that was this year. That was this year. It's just, couldn't remember. It says, here he says 58th. Was it 50? 10. It was in the 58th chapter. I probably didn't teach that chapter here. Rescuing Maya and his building the assembly hall are here repeated because of absorption in the topic. The order is as follows. So now he's giving the order. He burned the Kandava forest, got Arjuna the Gandiva bow, then obtained Kalindi while hunting. So this happened also. While staying at Indraprastha for 4 months of the monsoon. But I don't know, it doesn't sound like it because he had all his queens with him. Maybe not all his queens. Huh? Then Krishna returned to Dwaraka, married Kalindi, Bhadra and other queens, killed Naraka and performed other deeds. Then he was invited to the Rajasuya. But in the verse it was mentioning so many queens, so there seems to be a difference here of opinion.
Maybe it's a second visit.
I don't know. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti, it was... he didn't have... Of course, Kalindi was with him. Anyway, interesting. I just realized that there's a contradiction here. Okay, I'll read a little bit more about the Pandavas. Now, this is equal level. Before we were talking about mixed And here is an example of somebody who is on equal level in Sakyaras. Sakyaras. This is from chapter 43. When there are dealings between Krishna and his friends which are completely devoid of any feelings of respect, so that no servitude, they all treat one another on an equal level, such ecstatic love and friendship is called sthayi. When one is situated in this confidential, friendly relationship with Krishna, one shows symptoms of love, such as attraction, affection, affinity, and attachment. The example of sthayi was exhibited when Arjuna, so Arjuna is the example, of course he is the example of Sakyaras, told Akrura, "My dear son of Gandhini, please ask Krishna when I shall be able to embrace him in my arms." Now, when there is full knowledge of Krishna's superiority, yet in dealings with him on friendly terms, respectfulness is completely absent, that stage is called affection. There is one brilliant example of this affection. When the demigods headed by Lord Shiva were offering respectful prayers to Krishna, describing glorious opulences of the Lord, Arjuna stood before him with his hand on his shoulders and brushed the dust from his peacock feather. So here the demigods are very reverential, and Krishna's just going, like standing next to him like a friend. Shiva, they wouldn't dare to do that. Shiva and Brahma and all the demigods, they wouldn't come up and brush the dust off his peacock feather. But Arjuna was the Sakya. When the Pandavas were banished by Duryodhana and forced to live incognito in the forest, no one could trace out where they were staying. At that time, the great sage Narada met Lord Krishna and said, "My dear Mukunda, although you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-powerful person, by making friendship with you, the Pandavas have become bereft of their legitimate right to the kingdom of the world. And moreover, they are now living in the forest incognito. Sometimes they must work as ordinary laborers in someone else's house." That's Virata's house. "These symptoms appear to be very inauspicious materially, but the beauty is the Pandavas had not lost their faith and love for you. In spite of all these tribulations, in fact, they're always thinking of you and chanting your name in ecstatic friendship."
Where is that from?
That is same chapter, 43. Fraternal devotion to Lord Krishna, Nectar of Devotion. It's all from Nectar of Devotion, chapter 43. There's a nice example of friendship between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. When the fighting was going on, Ashwatthama, son of Drona, unceremoniously attacked Krishna, although according to the prevailing rules of chivalry, one's chariot driver should never be attacked by the enemy. Ashwatthama behaved heinously. In so many ways he did not hesitate to attack Krishna's body, although Krishna was acting only as charioteer for Arjuna. When Arjuna saw Ashwatthama releasing various kinds of arrows to hurt Krishna, he immediately stood in front of Krishna to intercept all of them. So that was Arjuna in the battlefield. Ashwatthama was shooting at Krishna, Arjuna stood in front and he took the arrows. At that time, although Arjuna was being harmed by those arrows, he felt ecstatic love for Krishna, and the arrows appeared to him like showers of flowers. Now this is Arjuna's relationship with Krishna. Another instance of Arjuna's friendship with Krishna was described by Narada, who reminded Krishna, "When Arjuna was learning the art of shooting arrows, he could not see you for so many days, but when you arrived there, he stopped all his activities and immediately embraced you." This means that even though Arjuna was engaged in learning about the military art, he had not forgotten Krishna for a moment. So those of you who go to school or who have to work in the outside world, Arjuna could do it. So can you. As soon as there was opportunity to see Krishna, Arjuna immediately embraced him. Now in 46, Arjuna used to fight with Krishna. There is a statement in the Harivansha. Sometimes Arjuna and Krishna fought in the presence of Kunti, and Arjuna would be defeated by Krishna. In such chivalrous fighting between friends, there is sometimes bragging, complacence, pride, power, taking to weapons, challenging and standing as an opponent. All of these symptoms become impetus to chivalrous devotional service. So Arjuna had that also, chivalrous. Sometimes they would fight with each other. Now back to chapter 43. Now this is taken when the Pandavas, after they escaped from the burning house, and they went to the city of Drupada to get Draupadi. So this is taken from there. Mathura Kanda chapter of Skanda Purana, there's a description of Krishna and Balaram surrounded by all the cowherd boys, always engaged taking care of cows and calves. So that's not, forget that part, I shouldn't have. When Krishna was met by Arjuna at a potter's shop in the city of Drupada Nagara, because of the similarity of their bodily features, they made intimate friendship. Sweets for the class today. That's the fine if your cell phone goes off during class. You have to give sweets for... This is an instance of friendship caused by the attraction of similar bodies. So this is saying in Nectar of Devotion that before Arjuna met Krishna, the first time they met, it was in Drupada Nagar at a potter's shop. Well, actually, that was where they were living. That's where the Pandavas were living at a potter's place, weren't they? That's where they were living. Yes, not they were shopping. Not they were shopping at the potter's shop. They were living at the potter's place, right? The Pandavas and Kunti were living at a potter's house, and Krishna met them there because they had the same. He said, "Wow!" And then they made friendship, same bodily features. Okay, Nectar of Devotion 50. Oh, that's about, okay. No, we won't read that one. All right, so we'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Yes, Parvati.
Krishna
Yeah, that's true.
is
Yeah, right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
so that we heard the example that Arjuna was actually studying military.
He was studying and thinking of
But
Krishna.
also thinking of Krishna all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the actual thing.
That you have to think of Krishna while you're studying.
And while but
Yeah, that's a good point. That while you're doing your duties, you think of
it's
Krishna.
adding Krishna.
You're adding Krishna.
You're doing everything what you're doing, but you're simply
And if you're bewildered in your activities, pray, Krishna, what to do next? Now what shall I do? I can't remember. You are remembrance, and you are forgetfulness. I don't know what to do. Yeah, any other comments? That's a good comment. Comment or questions? Oh, yeah, it's actually a contradiction there. Seems, yes?
Shifna Chakravarti Thakur says that these are two separate time periods. One was
Two separate time periods.
when Krishna went to Indraprastha and they burned the Kandava forest.
Okay, two different time periods.
And now here he's coming for Rajasuya, that's
Yeah.
a different time.
Different time.
These are unrelated.
Okay.
It's the same place, Indraprastha.
Okay, place is the same, but time is different. But it seems to me I read it was at this time that he burnt two different visits. So he was just remembering his last visit. Shukadev was remembering Krishna's last visit to Indraprastha. And so this is the second. Well, actually the second visit to Indraprastha. First visit they built the assembly house. Okay. Now we're having Rajasuya sacrifice. Okay, two different visits, so then it makes sense. It's probably from here, because I didn't... Maybe Gopal Champu, because I didn't do that. Yeah. Okay, so all glories to Srila Prabhupada. We will meet at 12:45.